this is the number that was presented to essentially the building committee, and we feel like either of the options except one, should be under this value. So what we were thinking is, presented to the board of selectmen and almost as a not to exceed number. And then once we get the final pricing, we don't have to go through the approval, schedule another meeting. But it's up to the board of selectmen to on that one.
Dick, where were we? I thought the committee was looking at buying the furniture off the state bid list if it was going to be less.
Yeah, which is kind of confusing. Al, you've got us under as a PCO, whereas the town was going to buy direct.
Right, and there's a note over here. It says it is a direct purchase, if I understood that properly. So it's not going through the general contractor, but I guess it's still coming out of the contingency fund.
Correct. Yes, that's the reason why it's shown here. It's not going through the contractor, but it's still gonna, I assume it's still gonna be run through the contingency, and so that's why it's listed here.
And now, just to answer Dave's other question, I believe this vendor is off the state contract list. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
All of the furniture options, yes. That
makes sense. So it literally comes down to picking furniture that Janet concurs is user-friendly for all, and you guys will pick it, and then we'll go from there. For the general public to back up, if you're just joining, what we're talking about is the outdoor patio furniture, where we decided to get 3 chairs per table, and what was the total number? 12 tables.
7 tables.
7? Okay.
Originally we were 12, and at our last building committee meeting, we reduced it to 7.
Thank you.
With 3 chairs each. Yeah.
We scaled it down, and but at the same point in time, we're going to need furniture for people to sit on outside. So that's what this is all about. And what we're trying to do is Janet very nicely informed us that the original choice might not be the most user-friendly, and so that's where we are right now, trying to find more user-friendly furniture under this amount. And it's great because I also looked at this and said pending change order, and I'm like, wait, are we going through the contract or state bid? So you've cleared that all up, and I thank you.
So where we're at with this, we're looking, so this is a not to exceed number that reflects pricing that addresses Janet's concern at the Council on Aging, as well as Mark's concerns at the Park and Rec. Mark's concerns were to make sure that this furniture, the chairs stack, I think is what it wanted to make sure would happen. So Al, with Al's homework, it's basically, this is a number which we would not exceed. That's a question to Al.
Yeah, and the reason why we're presenting this number is because the building committee recommended for approval 7 tables and 21 chairs, which the estimated cost is around the 24,000 figure. And again, I think based on the other options that were more user friendly that the vendor recommended, we feel like it's still going to be under this figure. And so rather than scheduling another meeting once we have the final number, we were thinking of doing it as a not to exceed.
Procedural question for Mike. Since this is not an actual PCO, do we need a separate motion to deal with this one?
No. So, I'll defer to Al. I think some of that is semantics. So this is, we're listing under a PCO, but it is a change order to the project, even though we're purchasing it direct. So I think from a technical perspective, it is still a PCO. Those are independent from whether we're doing it with the contractor or not.
I just thought I'd ask the question.
It's a really good question. It's the first time it's come up that it's been a direct purchase, right? So
right, and since there are going to be a few, I think there'll be more of these direct purchases. I just asked that we flag or maybe have a separate column for the direct purchases versus things that are falling under the contractor.
That's a good idea, Robin, because then we can keep it all
Absolutely.
straight when,
Right.
as you say, when there's a half dozen of them and
Right, 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 but I personally don't have any issues with this furniture purchase. You know, so long as Janet and Mark, we're meeting their requirements.
agreed. I mean, this has already been scaled down. And as long as we're getting it off the state list, I'm happy. So yeah, I agree. I have no questions on this one.
Okay. So then the next item is this foundation waterproof painting.
Yep.
Yeah, on the foundation waterproof painting, so this is on the 1910 section of the building. This is the old rubble foundation wall, of which parts of it are exposed, and they have been waterproofed in a product which only came in a whitish color. And if you have driven by and noticed, you will see this white stripe kind of around that goes around the perimeter of the building, you know, at just above grade. So what this represents is painting that white waterproofing in a color that wouldn't stick out so much. The color would match more along the lines of the color of the metal in the windows and some of the trim. So this is the building committee, we went through this. This pricing is from the contractor. We all thought seemed like it was on the high side. However, the time to do this it should ideally would be before plantings are installed, and which is happening in a couple of weeks. You know, how much money can be saved if it was outsourced, and then one has to deal with the painter or whoever, if it's decided to go through with painting it. You know, then the cost beyond having to reclean the foundation stone, you know, and work around plantings starts to become an issue. Building committee thought it was advantageous to do this through the contractor, and get it done.
But should I comment first?
Sure.
I guess I am choking on this one, Dick, because 2 or 3 years ago, we had our house painted, our garage. We got a primer coat. We got 4 full coats. They painted all of the trim. They fully prepped all of our windows and doors. We also had a copper parapet all the way around the house that had to be taped off and protected. And it was $15,000 to do all of that. And this is 1 to 3 feet on 3 sides of the 1910 building only, and it's $11,500. And I guess I would feel a lot better if we went out right now and just had 2, 3 painters come over and look at it and give us a quote. Because if it's $5,000, then yeah, let's give it to the contractor. If it's $10,500, then fine, go ahead and do it. But absent knowing what a fair price is outside of the contract, it's just very hard to approve another 11,500 and change, because the preponderance of common sense is this is too much.
Yeah, well, one, you got to remember this is public construction. So prices are going to be more than what you're going to get in residential. And I'm going to ask Al to comment on this. There are pros as far as analyzing costs go, and determining recommendation if they think it's fair and reasonable. So Al, maybe you can speak to that.
Sure, and you know, we relate to, you know, your kind of like sticker shock here, because when we first got this PCO, we were surprised at the cost. It was after we talked to the contractor that we realized just the amount of work, and you know, this is a special paint for exterior masonry grade. Has to be done in 2 coats. All of the joint between the rubble foundation and the building, it's a, you know, it's not a straight line. all of that has to be hand painted around the entire perimeter of the building. Now, to your point, what we were proposing here is to use, this is the estimated cost that we got from the contractor. What we were proposing is to do it on a time and material basis so that the town is paying for the actual incurred cost and not just doing a lump sum figure. And so we would use this 11,500 as a not to exceed, meaning the town will not pay more than this, even if it costs more. And we would track the slips, whenever the painters are out there, how many painters, how many hours are you there, to ensure that again, the town is not paying any more than that.
Al, do you know what the cost of the waterproofing was?
Not off the top of my head.
Could we find out what it costs to put the white stuff on?
We could probably get an idea. We could probably get an idea of what that cost was.
So my understanding, there's already something on it. It's like this off gray white thing. And we're planning to have plantings in front of it, right?
Not all around it, just on the east side, which is the Center Street side.
So, this is just me. I don't find the contrast in color unattractive in any way. I actually made a point of going there and looking at it. I guess what we're gonna try to is match the brick. Is that right?
It would be, actually, the recommendation from Fenwick McCready, the architects, was to match not the brick, but the color of the metalwork, the trim color around the eaves, also the
windows.
windows.
Okay.
That was their recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, because the brick, it sounds excessively right. So to me, it kind of looks rustic and you can tell that it's the 1910 building, but that's just me.
Well, I guess I should just say this. I cannot see myself voting for this absent some kind of outside painting quote. I'm sorry, but at some point we've got to start standing up for ourselves. And if we could get a quote and the quote comes in anywhere near this, we can go from there. If it is substantially less, then we will have saved ourselves some money. And that's just where I am.
And not doing this isn't gonna hold up occupancy, right? I mean, how quickly could we get a proposal?
Al,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Al, is that something that Colliers can get cranking on?
Yeah, I mean, colors can certainly, try to find painting vendors and get a quote. I mean, we have a product that was recommended by the architect for like exterior grade. So we can certainly reach out. The only thing here is that you can't really see it in this picture, but the loam, they're getting ready to install the landscape, the sod and plantings. I think it's like next week. And so right now they were holding off on the loom in front of the building just because we were anticipating this wall to be painted. And so that, if the landscaping needs to be, completed, then, but potentially it's going to cost a little bit more to go back and having to paint that behind, behind the landscaping. And also like they need to go a little bit under the final grade. But we can certainly get cranking on on trying to get a number from a local painter and see what we get from them.
Try La Pearl Painting in Medfield.
Painting in Medfield. Okay.
The other part of this is this would push, I believe, would push the paintings, if so elected to do, until after M. O'Connor is off the site. Right, because we can't bring in another subcontractor onto their site.
That's a good point, Dick. So basically what would happen is, so right now, the landscaping is very much in M. O'Connor's contract. If there's additional work that needs to be done, this will be outside of an additional a change to the contract that pushes beyond that date, the contractor would need to staff the project. So they would need, to have like a site super on site. And so that potentially will be additional cost that the contractor could request.
So really, when you think about it in that sense, the painting, if the painting is not done through M. O'Connor, the contractor, then it would have to be done after M. O'Connor is finished. In which case, then, they can happen whenever after they're done, whether it's a month, 2 months, 3 months afterwards. And just to reiterate, Robin, when your question, yes, this is purely cosmetic. This is and was recommended by the design team.
So, I just, if Dave's gonna vote no, then it doesn't pass. So, so I think the only option here is to go get another proposal, and maybe we could get a painting proposal tomorrow. I mean, you just need somebody to walk around the site and tell us what they would charge. And I guess the scope of what we're gonna need will most likely be more than what it would be right now, because to occupy the building, we have to complete the landscape. So I don't know what, if any, additional costs there would be. Like, would we need to pull up the landscaping to paint this after the fact?
Well, you wouldn't want to put bushes right up against the building, no matter what. There should be at least a couple of feet further.
Right, but it's the loam. It's, they have to finish grading, so that's the issue. The issue is the loam.
Understood. And then on top of the loam will go the grass, and maybe we just have them do everything up to a foot. And then because let's face it, we asked the contractor to go out and look at the 20,000 of value engineered plantings that we removed from the project. And they came back with $371,000 to do this landscaping. So clearly the contractor wants to get off the site, and we're going to need to do additional landscaping, planting ourselves after M. O'Connor leaves anyway. So my thought is, all right, well, that's going to be part of that project anyway. And I'm pretty sure we can get it done for less than $371,000. And that's kind of where I'm going. I understand that people want to get this done, but this is purely cosmetic. It's a lot of money. It's already been painted. It's already been prepped. That's why it's white. And so they had to do all the prep work and the scrubbing and getting the material ready to be applied. This is cosmetic paint. And yeah, I guess I look at, if there's in between the bushes, if someone can see 1/2 inch of white for several feet, so what?
So this was recommended by the building committee to do, and it's recommended by the design team to do. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you, understood. But again, if we could get a independent quote to let us know what it would cost, then I would feel a lot better. But I just, running down this road where every price seems to be more and more inflated, I'm sorry, I just can't get there. So
then that's the only path forward, is to get another proposal. If we could get something in the next day or two, then we could, if it's in the ballpark of this, then we could get it done. If not, it just has to happen after.
yep.
So we should just get a proposal for before and after. I mean, maybe Carl has some painters, Mike, that he can call in a favor.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so then the next item is infilling voids in the 1910 windows.
Yes, Al, if you could address that one.
Sure. Let me see, make sure I'm not. Yep, so basically this is for 10 windows. There are in the first floor of the 1910 building. So the first floor of the 1910 building, on the exterior, there's a row, like a what they call it, like a bond break. It's a row of brick that protrudes outside of the building. It's a decorative detail that they do on these buildings, and it turns into the window openings. What happened is that when that condition was concealed with caulking from the original windows that were in place, when those windows were removed, we found out that there's essentially a gap there. And with the newest windows going in, the right thing to do to ensure that that is a tight waterproof condition was to infill that with matching brick that was salvaged from parts of the buildings that were demolished. And so the cost is essentially was tracked on a time and material with the slips to infill those voids at those 10 windows. And that cost is $3,031.23.
Al, do you know when this work was actually performed?
Yeah, it was this work goes back quite a bit. I know that we were going back and forth on the slips because there was some revisions that we were looking for, and so that's the reason why it just took so long to get it in front of everyone. We always try to vet all of the PCOs on the project. They go through
Okay.
the vetting process. Yeah.
Well, to say that this is $3,031 is pretty much a travesty of the truth, because PCOs number 20 and 24, we spent $27,000. What my understanding is very similar, if not identical work. And I sent you an email, I don't know, a couple hours ago asking you to have those descriptions, if you could, to pull them up to see if my memory is wrong or what have you. But again, we've already spent $27,000 extra to have these window openings specifically fitted to these windows with the details. And I remember this because I was balking at those previous ones, and to see this come back after the fact, I've got several issues with it. One, it's not an isolation. It's now $30,000 to extra to go around the windows. And two, I'm a little off-put, or whatever the right word is, that this was never sent to Mike with his approval authority, nor to the Board of Selectmen. And I'd like to ask why this work was approved to get done without going through the normal approval process.
Yeah, so I can certainly speak to both of them. So as it relates to PCO number 24, when the interior demolition was done at the 1910 building, there were other things that were found out. Like, so for example, the exterior wall, all of the walls in the 1910 building consist of 3 layers of brick, with the middle layer being just kind of broken up pieces of brick. It's not like a full, like brick wall. And so those are conditions that were hidden when, the building was, the existing building was, finished. So PCO 24 was for different costs, including missing lintels that we didn't know were gonna be missing because it was a concealed condition. And it was also to frame, we had to frame in basically all the windows in the 1910 building. So the cost associated with this PCO here, it's strictly for masonry work that hadn't been done before or approved before. The PCO 24, it also included sills that were needed, and again, new framing, sills, and lintels. So that was and it was on the interior side, so that was a little bit different. As far as earlier in the project, there were a couple of conditions that came up as we were uncovering the existing building and what it was made of basically. And so there were a couple of minor items that we essentially, at the time, there was a conversation around the table about, this work needs to be done. It's an unforeseen condition. You know, there was a sort of like a verbal conversation about, you know, the work being done on a time and material basis. However, you know, that was earlier on in the project, and you know, there was only a couple of conditions when we kind of had those verbal conversations before we're like, all right, this needs to go through the, you know, this needs to go through the formal process, and then subsequent to that, basically everything else was done. Everything else was done, you know, through the formal approval process.
Well, may I ask how many other PCOs did not go through the approval process?
I mean, off the top of my head, I think it was just this one, and there might have been another like masonry condition that, you know, it was a small time and material basis when we walked the building with the architect, and you know, there were conditions that when the existing building was kind of torn off, you know, there were certain voids that needed to be filled, but it was only a couple of PCOs.
Have you been able to pull up 20 and 24 to get the description of that? Because I specifically remember you talked about chipping away and then remortaring and reframing.
Yeah, I do remember that. It's a little bit that was a little bit different. I can try to pull those up. 20 and 24. Give me 1 second.
And please don't let me forget, I got another question. Why was extra time added by M. O'Connor? There were 2 days added on to this PCO. And if it was done a long time ago, and
Yep.
I'm assuming with the other work, when we approved the 27,000 for 20 and 24.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We're rejecting that. So we're proposing a CCD for that reason, because we don't believe that there was a 2-day delay to the project. So that's the reason why we're proposing going with a CCD rather than signing the PCO that they submitted. 20 and 24. That was change order number 10. So this is where change order number 24 was. So this is number 20. Yeah, so there was some shipping that needed to be done. So I just want to go back to the description here. Yeah, so there was mortar. So this one is shipping out existing mortar. Basically to receive the framing, the interior framing that had to be done at the window. So there was some mortar that, you know, just had to be shipped. Again, that was done on a time and material basis. And then 24 unforeseen conditions associated with the additional framing, blocking, both dimensional lumber and plywood, new seals that were needed, new lintels were missing, and resized lintels.
Isn't that the same thing that the brick detail is?
It's different because this is chipping of the mortar that was existing. This new change order that we're presenting, it's to infill voids that existed because of the decorative detail that exists around the exterior of the 1910 building. Again, that was from the outside, that was caulked in, so we didn't know what the condition was behind those windows. And so when the existing windows were removed, we found that there was a gap there that needed to be filled in.
Well, again, I am more than off-put by the fact that this was given approval for the work to be done without going through proper channels.
And if I understand this right, the work's been done already, right?
Yeah, months ago. months and months ago.
Yeah, the work was done. At the end of the day, this was I feel like this is a conversation that we have with the contractor, and they proceeded essentially what's considered at risk. So under the understanding that, you know, this is work that needs to happen, that, you know, it's going to be tracked on a time and material basis, and, you know, but they, you know, we don't have like an approved PCO, and so that's considered they proceeded at risk. Meaning that they understand that potentially, you know, this may not get approved. However, this is work that, you know, needed to be done. You know, was completed, was tracked with, you know, the proper time slips, and we feel that, you know, this is going to be needed regardless. But it's essentially work that, you know, the contractor decided to proceed without the actual signed document. So that's just a
But who
caveat.
gave them the authorization, Al?
Yeah, this goes back, you know, this goes back up, you know, towards, you know, earlier in the project. So I don't remember exactly how that happened, but I know that there was probably a conversation about, you know, this needed to, you know, to take place, you know, that wasn't covered, and, you know, so I don't remember like all the details, but I sort of remember that there was a conversation about, you know, doing the work on a time and material. But again, the contractor doesn't have the signed document. So
Well, my thought are there's a subcontractor out there who needs to be paid $3,000. And I'm just going to ask that this from Colliers be the absolute last one of these to go through without going through either Mike or the Board of Selectmen, especially in the stage that we're at and with the amount of money on some of the change orders that are coming through. And this to me was just an add-on to 20 and 24 that appears to me to have been delayed after I squawked a lot about 20 and 24, and it looks like it's just being pushed through now. And it does not sit well at all. I tell you what, if the contractor is willing to withdraw his 2-day extension on this, I can get behind supporting it. If they're not willing to withdraw the 2, I have a hard time supporting it.
yeah,
And it's
so
$2,500 a day, so it's $5,000 in additional time is what the contractor's putting in for.
yeah, no, 100% understood on the, you know, understood, and, you know, again, there was only like, you know, this was one off, kind of like one off where, you know, there might have been a discussion before going through the proper, you know, the proper channel. So, you know, that hasn't happened for, you know, over a year and a half now, or, you know, a long time. So completely understood on that. What, you know, with the contractor, I don't know if the contractor, is going to be willing to revise their PCO to remove the 2 days. But that's the reason why we're proposing to go with a CCD, which is essentially approving the cost without the time extension.
Well, we've been through this. They're going to use that in negotiating when we all get to the end of this. And, you know, they took this at risk, so we could say no. I don't think anyone wants to say no, but given the circumstances of this, I'm going to ask that you go back to M. O'Connor and say, we'll pay this, but you've got to withdraw your 2 days.
Yeah, we'll certainly ask. Yep.
I mean, what happens when they say no, we're not gonna pay it?
So usually, you know, so that's why there's a method called in the contract. There's a method called a construction change directive, or CCD.
Right,
It's there for that specific reason, Robin, in case you get pricing that you know, so that the contractor cannot force the owner to agree to either an unreasonable price or time extension. Then there's a CCD method where you can just issue the CCD for the cost that you feel is reasonable, or the time extension that you feel is reasonable. And the contractor is required to proceed at protest, I guess.
Exactly. But all the contractor is doing right now is amassing days of protest.
well, I think for this one, it's sort of a slam dunk as to why they can't charge 2 days, but that's just my opinion. You know, it
Yeah,
had
I mean, I
to say
just,
at the beginning of the contract.
so, I mean, I think what I'd like to do is, again, hey, we've waited this long on this one, so why not go back and say, the selectmen wish you to withdraw your 2-day claim. If you do that, we'll pay you. If not, I can't guarantee that you're gonna get paid. And if they're at risk, they're at risk.
I mean, there's no harm in asking. I'm just not sure they'll do anything, but.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure they want to get paid the 3,000, so.
We'll present it that way. Yep.
So why don't we just agree to hold on that one as well, and see if we can get M. O'Connor to stop their incessant, oh, this is 2 days delay. Things aren't even on the critical path, and they're putting delay after delay after delay. And I see the strategy coming right now. They're going to walk into the negotiating table and say, well, because you didn't use PCOs and you went to CCDs, we've got 70 days on the calendar at $2,500 a day that we wish to enter into this dispute with. So again, it's not the 3,000, it's the 5,000 extra.
All right, so now let's move on to the last one, which is the gravity block wall.
Yeah, Al, can you, I don't know if there's a way you can put on that,
Picture?
that drawing we were, yeah, pictures definitely help.
Yep. So I mean, yeah, I can walk through this one. So
Well, I was just thinking, yeah, definitely walk us through, but could you also, I think it would be really helpful, that drawing, remember I mentioned today at our OAC meeting, to have this, have the drawing that Katie, we were looking at with Katie from FM Architects.
yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was
That'll
sharing
be,
now.
it'll
Al,
be,
it's still showing, oh, there you go, okay.
All right. Okay. Is it showing up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
that's the one.
Yeah, so basically this is for it's a gravity wall. It's not quite a retaining wall. It's essentially like a mass 2 to 3 feet high that goes along the west side of the service drive. And that is because of the great difference between the service drive and the abutters. Now this wall in the original design, it was shown as a 2-foot wall, a 2-foot wide wall. However, now this is considered this is something that is considered delegated design, meaning that the design team and their engineers are not responsible for, the engineering is done by the contractor. And so once the engineering was done, to handle, there's a wood fence that goes on top of this retaining wall. And once the engineering was done on that wall, we found out that the wall needed to increase in width from 2 feet to 5 feet. That wouldn't work with the clearance requirements for the fire department, and so we needed to find another solution. That other solution is what we're proposing today, which is essentially it's a different product. And it's still a gravity wall, but it's able to handle the loads from, the wind forces from the wood fence that's going to go on top of it. And that is going to that wall is essentially going to require the process, like a shop drawing process. So it's gonna, once the authorization is given, the contractor is gonna turn around and give it to their gravity wall vendor, who's then going to put together the shop drawings, and then they're going to do the calculations. It'll then go to the architect for approval, and then it'll be ordered, fabricated, delivered, and installed. What we're looking at here is essentially what we're right now. What we're thinking of is facing it. Because right now the final asphalt course has not been installed. because of, a couple of reasons. Number one, the landscaping is not done. We want to wait until that's done as to not damage the final pavement. But also the retaining wall needs to be placed before the final pavement can be installed. So what we are proposing on doing, because of the shop drawing process for that retaining wall, we're thinking of facing this, essentially the asphalt in two phases, so that the parking lot can be paved as soon as the landscaping is done, and then it can be striped and can be open to the public. And then follow up with the service drive once all of the shop drawings are completed and the approval are fabricated. The material cost to go from the original planned retaining wall product to the other one is only $11,500. The cost that the contractor proposed to us, it's closer to $109,000. And the reason for that is because there's insurance that the contractor thought was going to be required. After consulting with the town's insurance agent, we found out that that's not needed. That was about $45,000 of that. The other cost was for general conditions. Basically, once the contract, we hinted at this a little bit earlier, once the contractor finishes their contract scope, which right now what they have remaining is the landscaping, the sod, the asphalt. Once that is completed, if there's any additional work that needs to happen after the fact, the contractor needs to staff the site. That also comes at a cost. So they were including a cost for general conditions to staff the site. So if I go back here, when we sent this memo, essentially the cost that we were including to release the contractor was the $11,500. However, we feel that the general condition cost that the contractor included, it's reasonable for the duration that we're anticipating this work to take. And that is, if I go back to that PCO. So the general conditions is it's the 44,000.
Can you make that bigger?
So this is the general condition cost for installing the wall that will, take place after the contractor's contract scope is completed on the project.
It's gonna take 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's anticipated that it's going to take about, to have a site super about a month to install the retaining wall. And after the retaining wall is installed, so the fence has to go in after the fact. So that is all baked into this. It's not just the retaining wall, but the fence that goes on top of it can be installed until the retaining wall is installed.
And this is a requirement for occupancy, having this wall and fence.
It's not a requirement for TCO, so we're anticipating to have the temporary certificate of occupancy hopefully next week. So that is what's going to allow the owner to move into the building. But this is part of the contractor's base contract, except that through the engineering of this retaining wall, we found out that it needed to change in size.
So for the privilege of having M. O'Connor complete this wall, we're paying $44,000 additional. Is that right?
That is correct, because they have to have folks in there to install the wall, prep the base.
And how much of the cost of the wall is already in the contract?
So that actually, I think that's here. So, the original 24-inch block was about 17,000. The new 39-inch block, which is, the deeper one that's required, is 29,000. So the delta is 11,500.
Okay, so
Wait.
just so that I understand this right, so we're gonna pay $11,551 for the delta in the wall, which is what this PCO is. And then on top of that, we're gonna pay another 40 grand.
Correct. The 40 will be for the general conditions to, install not only the retaining wall, the fence, but, also the asphalt that has to go in after the retaining wall is installed.
But that was all part, that's part of the original contract. And by phasing this, I mean, I think what Robin's getting at is we're looking at 13, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're looking at almost $75,000 for this wall, not including the fence that goes on top. Not including the cost of phasing the driveway into 1 and 2. I mean, to keep saying like, oh, it's just 11,551. I mean, at least you were forthcoming with a 44, which is down from 109. But the ridiculousness of this is the original wall was $17,517. So,
Right, and I understand, I understand now that it's, there's, the scope has changed, so it's another 11. I get that. So again, it begs the question, can we get this wall built for less, less than $51,000?
I got 73. Well, yeah, 73.
Well, you're not getting back the 17. The 17 is part of the contract.
No, but you would get a credit, wouldn't we?
No, I don't think so.
If we back out the work, I thought we got credits.
If I may jump in, yeah, you gotta remember with M. O'Connor's, the contractor's under contract to install this wall. So what you're not seeing is their numbers to actually excavate and do the installation portion of it. That's all built into their numbers. If we delete it from their contract, which we could do, we'll probably get 5 cents on the dollar. What this is to pay the delta for the change in the blocks from the 17,000 to the 11,000, 17,000 to the 29,000 for a delta of 11. And also because it's going to take time to re-engineer the wall using these wider blocks, M. O'Connor will have exited the site, will have completed all their other work, and would then have to come back and remobilize to do what we're labeling as phase 2. And that mobilization cost is what you're seeing with their general conditions of about 44,000, about 44K. So if you're talking about the true deduct number, if you want to remove it from M. O'Connor's scope, you'll also, it's their cost for the originally the blocks plus their whatever they give you for, excavating and installing while they're mobilized and on site.
Al, would you please put the number sheet back up?
Yep. What was that? This one. So there's the material cost and then there's the general conditions cost.
Is there going to be an additional increase for phasing this with the pavement? Because now you have to have the paving contractor come back again.
Yep, so that's a great question. So there's a couple of things here. So number one is that this right now, this 11,500 assume that the entire wall is going to be 39-inch block, which we know is not true. So the contractor is working right now to revise this number so that it reflects. There's a portion of it that's going to be 24-inch. So we have to this number is likely going to go down. But to your point, there is going to be a small additional cost. The contractor is working on getting that price to essentially phase the pavement into two phases. They're going to have to leave the site and come back. So there's going to be a small additional cost for that.
And where's the page where the for the 44,000?
Yep, it's the next page here.
I mean, site supervision and project manager, we need 1.5 people to watch the wall being built.
Yeah, so there's gonna have to be a site supervisor on site. There's a laborer to, prep for the work, and then a project manager. And the one thing I guess I want to emphasize is that these general conditions are not just for the retaining wall. It's because there's going to be additional work that's going to fall outside of the contractor's contractual duration, which, because the fence will need to go in after the fact, that is also going to require staffing during that time, as well as during the final the phase 2 of the asphalt installation.
Well, again, labor, no, please put that back. Laborer on site for 80 hours. They were going to have a laborer on site anyway. Why is this additional?
Because they will have left already, that's my understanding. So
Well,
they
do
will
we
have
get a credit for
completely-
them not doing the work beforehand? And this just to me seems like one huge double up. It's like they don't have to do the work originally. That was 17,000 plus, as Dick says, there's other site prep and all that in there. But this to me is the contractor is just sending a message and it's not right. It's way too much money. I mean, it's a $73,000 wall instead of a $17,000 wall.
Well, I think the wall is really 30,000 because the scope has changed.
Well, it's 17.5 was the original, 11.5 is the new block, and then 44 for conditions is $73,000. Plus the cost of the driveway being phased. So it's a $75,000 wall plus.
Yeah, well, we don't really know. We don't know what the cost of the actual installation of the wall is. That's not reflected in anything we're seeing right here.
So that will be an addition.
No, that's owned under contract. What they're saying is, okay, you guys, from the contractor's point of view, how I see it, is, okay, you guys have changed the specifications on the block. You're changing the block. Okay, what do you want to change it to? Okay, we want to change it to this block being recommended, shade block wall system. Okay, they're showing us the delta and the cost for the block, which is about 11,000. Now they're saying, well, you've changed the block on us, and by the time it gets engineered with the new block, and it goes back to the engineers, the architects and the engineers for approval, this wall's probably not going to start until the midsummer, and we're going to be finished. We're pulling all our crews off of this site. Therefore, if we do come back, we want to, we're going to need to have site supervision and a project manager and a laborer involved, which otherwise we wouldn't have had to if it had been done during their, in their regular construction window.
Because some of these people would have been there already.
Exactly.
So I guess what we don't know is what the cost of labor and the design and engineering is. That's part of the contract. We would get something back, but probably 5 cents on the dollar. I don't know what we would get back if we said not to do this.
Well, one more question. I just want to make sure we don't have a logic break here. But I think I just heard you say that the engineering on this wall has not been done yet.
But it's part of the contract, I believe.
It has not been done. It has not been done on the change of it has not been done for the different block. What happened was the spec was for a 24-inch or 2-foot wide block that was then engineered by the contractor under his scope of work, under his contract. And they came back and they said, hey, you can't use 24-inch block. It won't support the fence, which is designed to be drilled into the posts of the fence are designed to be drilled into the top of the wall and supported by the wall. You can't use, it's not going to work at 24-inch. You're going to have to use a 60-inch wide block. And a 60-inch wide block then, of course, encroaches on the width of the service drive. So that wasn't acceptable. The architects went back and found a different block at 39 inches. Well, now you got to start the process over. Now that has to be gone through engineering, which has not been done and was not part of M. O'Connor's original scope of work. They fulfilled their end by doing their engineering with the 24-inch block.
So we will also have to pay additional for the additional engineering that needs to get done.
Yeah, we don't have final pricing on we don't have an overall final cost for this work that has been vetted fully yet. They started at a PCO of $109,000, which included was it $45,000 worth of builder's risk insurance, which which Colliers and I think, the town investigated and determined that it's not needed. So we know we've gone from 109 minus the 45, whatever. So we're in that, 60 range. That's where we're at right now until we kind of vet this. The problem we're having is in order for the contractors while they're there to get the paving done for the what we're calling for the parking lot, so that the building could actually start being used, and what we're calling phase 1, we need to do a little bit of block work. Al, if you can put the pointer on it. Oops.
So Dick, to cut to the chase, are you saying phase 2 can be done by somebody else?
It's a possibility. It's an option. We've been wrestling with this in order. So this section is 35 foot, 36-inch section. You can see there's where it's marked. In order for the contractor to pave the parking lot, that section of wall needs to be in place. And that section of wall does not actually support a fence on top of it. So the idea is to at least get that section of wall installed, which then allows the contractor to pave and stripe the parking lot. What would have to be phased later, which we're indicating on this drawing as phase 2, is the driveway that has this gravity wall with the fence on top. The block has to, the block needs to all be to match. So the delta in the cost of the block is the 11K, which is 11 to 12,000, which is what is in front of you right now. However, we don't know the overall cost of the total, project of getting this whole gravity wall done. We think it's going to be somewhere in that 60 to 70K range all in.
Dick, if I may, I'd like to go back to the logic path here. If the engineering hasn't been done, and we're about to order these blocks, what if the blocks do not fit what the engineers say we need?
There has been some legwork done already on it. From the indication from the architects is that they've talked with the block manufacturer and with the engineering and everybody's saying that yes, this will work, but the formal engineering still has to be done. Good question, though.
But but then it flips to the other way going, well, if everyone say this is going to work, then why do we need that engineering?
Just in
paperwork,
case it doesn't.
liability, you name it.
I mean, are we gonna be stuck if all of a sudden it's like, oops, no, it doesn't work? Because this whole wall has been worked on for, as you know, months. And it's been one thing after another. I'm assuming the fire department is okay with the blocks that are being proposed. Because the 11,500 for the new type of block is not the issue. It's the 73 plus the engineering, plus the additional driveway for phase 2. I mean, we're looking at $100,000 wall.
No, we're looking at between 60 and 70. They've come back, we've received a quote from the contractor of $109,000.
Yep.
Okay, that's all in. But as Colliers was going through it, they picked up that they're asking for insurance, builder's risk, general and builder's risk insurance at 43,000. Colliers has said no, did some investigation, worked with the town and said, no, you don't need that. So we know right off the bat that there were 109 minus 43.
Which is 66.
So what is that? 66K. I rounded to, okay, yeah, I'm rounding 66, 60 to 70, 66K. That's the cost of the wall. If we give M. O'Connor the green light, obviously, then they have to go and, within that number is the re-engineering of the wall. And for them to get this thing done, soup to nuts. Is that correct, Al? Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct. And the one thing is this 11,500 that we're anticipating that to go down a little bit, because in here the contractor assumed that the entire wall was going to be 39 inches, but we know that a portion of it can be 24 inches. But then Dave, to your point, there is some remobilization costs. We don't think it's going to be a big number for the pavement to be done in 2 phases.
I thought this 109 incorporates all of that.
Not this 11,500 here is still, we haven't received the pricing from Crystal yet on the revised pricing that accounts for the 24-inch block, because right now they assumed everything was still going to be 39, and we're still waiting on the pricing for the facing the asphalt.
So, okay, so as you can see, there's still some vetting that has to be done on this PCO. The problem we're having is we're about 2 weeks away or 3 weeks away from M. O'Connor pulling off the project. We'd like to get them before they pull out, to pave the parking lot and stripe it. Otherwise, we're going to get hit with more money. And in order for them to pave this blue area, what we're calling phase 1, there's 30 to 40 feet of gravity wall, which needs to be installed in order to allow them to do that.
Right, so I think we need to get that done. And does that require, and I guess in order for the blocks to match, we need to spend the additional 11,000. And we would have the blocks there, and somebody else, if we so choose, could build the remaining wall with the blocks that we already have. Am I oversimplifying this?
No, you're not. I mean, or we could also just stipulate that we only need to, only procure the 24-inch wide blocks, only buy what you need to do phase 1.
Right, because I'm assuming these are just cement blocks that you can get anywhere, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Thank you, Robin. You just took my next question right out of my mouth. So they're prefab. Do we have any idea on delivery time? I mean, is this something that could be done in the next 3 weeks?
Yes, the block is available and on the shelf, the 24-inch block. So
wait, 24 or the new one? I'm sorry, I can't remember. Is the new block 24 or different?
Well, it's new block. However, this section, I'm pointing at the screen. You can't see that, of course.
I do that all the time.
But
I'm
that,
like,
that,
why don't people know what I'm talking about?
the 36 foot on phase one is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the width of that block only has to be 24 inches because there's no fence sitting on top of it.
But then they won't match.
Well, the width won't,
Mhm.
But
right?
the block
top
will.
piece, but the color of the block and the texture and all that will match.
Oh, okay, so we don't, all right, now I understand. I was thinking that we need to go, like Robin said, the same block all the way down. But my point is even for phase two, if this block, I mean, if we were to approve this and say, okay, go, what I'm trying to avoid is the 44,000 of site conditions, or at least some of it, and get M. O'Connor to put this in.
But the engineering's not done and it won't be done within the next 3 weeks. That's the issue. And it will take 3 weeks for the wall to get built.
But then
So
how can they put in phase one if the engineering is disallowing it to happen?
I think the engineering for phase one is done. It's more complicated for phase two because you have to put the fence on top.
Correct.
Yeah, phase one doesn't require engineering.
Right. It's already done. All right, here's my advice. Let's get phase one done because we need the parking lot to be, otherwise we're gonna delay the building.
Yep.
So we need the parking lot painted. In order to do that, we need to put this retaining wall in. There are a whole lot of, we'll get M. O'Connor to price out phase two. We can get somebody else to price out phase two. Because regardless, it's gonna happen after occupancy in the building.
I agree with you. We all agree that phase one needs to happen, and I feel a lot better that the different size blocks will still mesh together. I was worried that there was going to be two different kinds of blocks. And that obviously is going to be a much lower number if we're only doing 36 feet versus including phase two, which is a lot longer. Zach, I mean, so do we have any idea what phase one would be, order of magnitude?
There's no extra cost for phase one. There's no cost associated with phase one. That's all part of M. O'Connor's contract.
So we can just say go and get phase one done and then phase two. I mean,
Yes, it's, you have to, there's the numbers still have to be worked out for phase two, but the sense is that it's gonna be in that $66,000 to $70,000 or $66,000 to $70,000 range. But don't hold me to it.
well, based on the moving parts, Dick, that's only fair. So
I wish we had, numbers and everything, and timelines, but unfortunately we don't. We're in a little bit of a pickle on this one in order to at least get phase one done.
okay. Let me, if I can, at risk of putting everyone on tilt, but we also have the fence that goes on top of the phase two wall as well as goes down to the corner and then out towards Whiting Road. Is that all set?
I'm sorry, say this
Is it
again.
going to be installed? I mean, there was a container that had to be moved and
We can't install this, okay, so that's a different topic, the fencing that adjoins 4 Whiting Road property. There's a section there cannot be installed until the owner of 4 Whiting Road moves their storage container, which is on town property and which is where the fence wants to go.
But that has nothing to do with the retaining
But
wall.
this has nothing to do with the gravity wall and getting phase one taken care of.
well, my point in doing it is M. O'Connor says that they're going to pull out and, they're going to need a supervisor to do the driveway, but there's the fence work, there's the landscaping work. There's additional work that still needs to be done. And what I'm hearing now is this is all going to be done in the next 2, maybe 3 weeks.
The fence that adjoins 4 Whiting Road is going to be, that was removed from M. O'Connor's contract and is being done by the town directly. We did that for cost savings,
Yes.
okay? So M. O'Connor, yes, they're projecting in their schedule that they're gonna get their plantings in, their trees are, they're getting their trees and plant material in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And then and that's gonna take about a week to install those, and then once those are installed, then they can complete their asphalt, their sodding, and pretty much wrap up the site.
So they'll be out of there in 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, probably, I'm guessing, yeah, maybe a month. I don't know, Al, what do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah, they have the pavement, the final pavement scheduled for the 3rd week of May. So they're anticipating on having that done. Yeah.
Beginning of June then, yeah.
Well,
So call the beginning of June.
As to one thing I do want to point out is as to it is true that this 2 foot wide portion of the gravity wall that is in M. O'Connor's contract, the material was changed from like one vendor to the other vendor. But we can't, I mean, we already know that the 39 inches, it's it's an 11,500 for the entire thing. So there could be a very small dollar value associated with that change. But it's not, so that's something we would have to work with M. O'Connor on that, but that would be there wouldn't be general conditions associated with that, or any, or engineering or any of that for that 2 foot wide portion.
yeah, no, that's understood, Al. That's fair. I mean, the blocks cost more. There's 36 feet of block and whatever that proportional charge is, I mean, to do phase 1.
Yeah.
So do you need our approval to do phase 1? Because I think phase 2 is still, there's a lot of moving parts, and I would feel a lot better knowing what we're going to approve and then who's going to do it. Because if M. O'Connor's going to come back and say, well, and we need $44,000 and this is what it's paying for, well, 44 plus, and if they buy all the blocks and get them on site, then it's a matter of who's going to put them in. And I just wish that we didn't have to hold up the engineering. If everyone's so comfortable that they're willing to buy the blocks and put them in at least for the phase 1, and now we need engineering for phase 2, and we have to wait and remobilize and spend $44,000 to get phase 2 complete. It's maddening. I don't know how you put up with this, Dick.
No comment.
So on this one, I think what we need to do is give you a certain approval to do phase 1, including any increase in the blocks for those 36 feet, right?
Yeah, we know we're gonna top out, Gral, help me out here, but I believe we know we're gonna top out at 11.5 if we give direction to M. O'Connor. And I think the idea would be to give them, for the change in the block. Okay, but what we don't know yet, because it has to be fully vetted, is, what the overall cost is for, which is this phase 2, which we're projecting to be somewhere in the 60 to 70,000 range. Done by M. O'Connor. Now, remember, if it is removed from if phase 2, it's determined to remove this scope from M. O'Connor, it's not just the block wall, it's also the fencing, the asphalt. There might be some striping, and I don't think the signage would get involved.
Which is why it would, I'll reiterate, it would be so great if the blocks can get delivered in, let's say next week, and we can start the construction before M. O'Connor leaves. We'd save ourselves at least some of that $44,000.
Correct, but we can't start the construction of phase 2 block work until it's been engineered. Sorry.
Any rough ETA on engineering? Days, weeks, months?
That's 3 weeks, yeah.
They're saying 3 to 4 weeks to prepare the shop drawings and engineering. Then it has to be reviewed by the design team, and then it'll be released for fabrication.
Well, if we take the optimistic, then we're looking at 8 weeks or 2 months
Mhm.
before we can start construction. Which means our opening is going to be in the fall.
Excuse me.
Was that a sneeze? Then bless you.
Yeah.
It was hard
Are
to
you
see.
just, are you just gasping at the timeline?
I wasn't sure.
So one thing I want to point out is, this 3 to 4 week here, shop drawing review by the design team. This is something that was estimated by the contractor. But talking to the design team, they think that potentially, they don't anticipate this to be a 3 to 4 week long process. They can't give us like an exact number of days, just in case there needs to be some back and forth on this. But they feel like if everything looks good, 48 hours to get this back. Obviously, if there's some back and forth, it could be a little bit longer. I think the intent with and Dick, maybe correct me here if I'm wrong, but I think the intent here was to or I don't know if we were anticipating waiting until the service drive was done to open the building to the public. I think we were trying to get this asphalt here done first, which in order to open the building.
I
But
just have to go get the door. Just excuse me.
We, yeah, we still don't know, that's part of the building inspector has to weigh in, correct? On whether, a full, we know or the temporary certificate of occupancy. Looks like that's projected to happen on Monday. The building inspector's coming through on Monday and for the temporary certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy, is if it does this phase 2 have to be done for a final? Has that been flushed out yet? I don't believe that's been flushed out yet.
yeah, you're right.
Right. Now, there is another piece to this, since we're having a little, and Al, can you shrink the drawing a little bit so we can, might as well have this discussion now too. We're at the section of this phase 2 driveway, up by Springdale Avenue. If you will notice, there's right by the corner of the building. Okay, there's not a straight line anymore, leading to Springdale Avenue. You see how there's a little bump there?
Yes.
Okay, that was, we were working with the fire department because even with this new block wall at 39 inches, we ended up having to reduce the width of this service drive as by the 1910 building. The concession, it wasn't a concession, but what we worked out with the fire department was, okay, we're okay if we are less than the 15 feet, which was originally designed to be the width of this service driveway. We're okay if it's less than that, as long as we have the ability to park a firefighting equipment between the 1910 section of the building and Springdale Avenue, with enough space for the outriggers on the ladder truck or whatever it was. Therefore, we expanded that little section of the service drive in order to accommodate that, which is what we worked out with the fire department. We do not, Al, I don't believe we have that change yet from the cost of that change yet.
Correct.
It's going to be somewhere between 109 and 111,000, Dick. That's where all their quotes are coming in. I think that's a very creative solution that you and the fire department worked out. That makes sense. And if this allows them to be comfortable with the wall on the block, that's the least of our worries. I mean, there's gonna be a little bit of extra, pavement that's needed, right? That's about it.
And a little bit, the curbing changed a little bit. I don't,
Oh, do
Yeah,
we have
well-
to dig up the curbing and do all that?
I can't remember if that curbing had been installed when we were going over this, Al. I know we had to change a little bit of the curbing where it takes that jog by the corner of the 1910 building.
Yeah, this curving had been installed and it continued out to the street, but you're right that the radius piece had not been installed yet.
Now, that's while I'm on a roll, if you stay on that drawing, there is on this service drive entrance to Springdale Avenue, there's some curbing, which kind of ends and doesn't sweep into, doesn't have that nice curve, as you can see in that drawing. So there may be a PCO from M. O'Connor to kind of connect some dots there. Because that wasn't shown in the original bid set of drawings, contract, it's not included in the contract set of drawings.
Right.
So I guess, David, what I'm saying, and Robin, is in it, there's this area, there's gonna be some more there's gonna be, we're expecting to see some more costs too for these, these modifications at this end of the service drive.
The curb cuts and whatnot, have been expensive, PCO changes from the contractor. So if they just pile on to the point where it's so expensive, then this is when you just say phase 2 is not M. O'Connor. And I mean, because it's already 66 and we know there's gonna be extra charges for the pavement. And they're already putting their overhead in and now they gotta do a curb cut and actually 3 curb cuts. One on each end of the driveway and then the jog right by the 1910 building.
Where are we on this, on the PCO for this change in the width here? Do we have pricing back from M. O'Connor yet?
We have not received it yet.
Needless to say, if Colliers can push that. And also, push to see what we're looking at for the west side of this, the entrance to Springdale.
Mhm.
Just trying to give you the full picture.
No, I appreciate it, Dick. I mean, and this is what you guys, the building committee has been dealing with constantly for many moons. And I do appreciate you letting us know. Because when you're fed this stuff piecemeal, it just makes you angry. It's like, what does it cost and why, and deal with it. And obviously those are going to be increases. What are we going to call this? The Taj Wall?
All right, so so going back to this, what the intention here is, we'd like to be able to, now that you kind of giving you the full picture of what's going on with this area, this idea of phase 1 to, and breaking this up into phase 1, phase 2, and we'd like to get this at least get the block changed, so that we can proceed with getting phase 1 done.
And again, if all the block is delivered for both phases and we decide that the M. O'Connor's price for phase 2 is too exorbitant, we will have the block on site and then we will need to get a contractor ourselves to put it in.
Right. And install the fence on top of it.
Yep.
Or we see if we can, instead of littering the site with the block, I'm just throwing this out there, maybe the supplier can hold on to it for us, at their yard, as opposed to us having to store it on site. Anyway, with that, we can work that out. I mean, by June 1st, we're hoping that with the exception of this service drive, trees are planted, parking lot's done, striped, sod is down, we've got a nice looking, we got a nice looking community center exterior. With the exception of just this pink part of the service drive. So I'm just trying to avoid littering the site with more construction materials if we don't have to.
Understood. Question for you. If M. O'Connor is on the site for phase 2, will we be able to do other work ourselves, or is it still considered their site?
We would be able to do, this would be their area. Of phase 2, this service drive, and they don't own this so-called. We're free to do other things on the site, independent of M. O'Connor at that point.
Okay, so we could do some additional landscaping and
Yep.
I don't know, the painting of the.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Again, we're trying to learn on a very steep curve here to catch up with what you know as a matter of course. So, all right, so bottom line is we're going to need a block wall, and the new blocks meet the fire department's code and needs, and phase 2, it just needs some more work, some more refinement, and some more pricing. And then you can come back to us with a total cost on phase 2 at a later point in time, other than the block. Is that a summary here?
Yes.
And then at that point, we make a decision. Do we go with M. O'Connor or do we go with somebody else?
Correct. So are you good with that, Robin?
I am.
Okay, so then we can just move that CCD 26 goes as presented.
Right. Second. All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
Oh, and you know what? We need to also vote on VE for the furniture. So we also authorize the purchase of the furniture not to exceed $24,065, which represents 7 tables and 21 chairs as approved by the COA and Park and Rec.
Agreed, I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
And can I just double check? So just because it was a little while ago in the meeting, so I know you are not proceeding with CCD 24 at this time. 25, although you shared your concerns, I believe you were going to go that. Have we voted on that? I don't remember if you voted.
We are going to wait to see if M. O'Connor will remove their
Oh,
additional
that's right.
time.
Thank you. Sorry, Dave. Thank you.
No, it's all right.
And for the foundation waterproofing and painting, we're going to get another proposal. And if the proposal comes in really close to the 11,515, then we're going to proceed with that.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. You exhausted, Dick?
Well,
I'm
my
exhausted.
question is, are you? I'm used to this. I hate to say it, but.
Yeah, I suppose you do learn to deal with it. Well, so it's that's good. You've got 2 yeses. We are much more informed on the gravity block wall, and we'll be better poised once you got the information for us. And you can move ahead with the furniture, and we'll just keep this moving.
Great. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you and your committee. It's
almost done.
Dick's like, yeah, prove it. So
No, we're getting there.
so well, when we do have our grand opening, Robin, we're gonna do one of those 1-day liquor permits.
You're right. Agreed. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you. Now
Okay,
we also have a second item of business on this agenda. And let me go to that.
That's not with the building.
No, I mean, if
Yeah.
you'd like to stay, feel free.
Well, I'm sure we've already
Or
exhausted
you may need a drink, and I don't think you need a liquor license. But if you do, let us know.
No, well, no, we don't have one here at all. But okay, but thank you.
Yeah, this is unrelated completely to the building committee. So if you and Al want to go, please feel free to do so. We'd love you to stay, but it's up to you.
Okay.
Okay, so Mike, I assume you're gonna present item 1.2?
So I'm actually gonna completely turn this over to Chris.
Chris?
This is his
Okay.
baby, and it's nice to have some really good news after that extensive
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah, so hopefully I can come in here and provide some uplifting news. So we are before you this afternoon for discussion and approval is a contract with a company called Zones that was procured through the state bid list, ITS 75. Zones is an authorized reseller of the online permitting application called OpenGov, which is who we intend to contract with to implement our online permitting system for pretty much every department in town, but primarily building, health department, conservation, planning, and really the land use departments that are taking various types of permits in. So we're pretty happy to bring this proposal forward and excited to get going. But first, I wanted to thank the team that helped me vet numerous proposals that we received through the early process. So thank you to Health Director Jason Belmonte, Planning Director Jasmine Bernacci, and Building Department Joe Doyle, who all sat with me and we listened to countless proposals from various companies, and we're really confident that the solution from OpenGov is the most appropriate for the town of Dover for a multitude of reasons, which I can get into. I think the primary thing we're most excited for is how much this software will help us internally navigate really the bulk of the building department permits. It will vastly simplify the application process and also the management of the status of building permits as they go along. But what really helps us with this software is the ability to build approval chains for permits that require multiple levels of approval from different departments or boards and committees. This software is going to give us the ability to set up that approval chain in advance and also track it as it goes through. So we're really excited about what this does internally, actively, but also passively. The reporting capabilities of this software is really going to help us long term as we build up a cache of issued permits. There's really endless filter types. You can really filter by any type of information that comes through on one of these applications, and you can build custom report types. For instance, if you wanted to pull all applications in a given year for permits that were issued in a flood zone or a conservation area, it would allow us to do that. So we're excited for it to help our process, but also reduce the amount of administrative work that it takes to pull files, review them, and compile different types of reports. So that's really a summary of the internal aspects. The public facing is what we're really excited for with this application too. The company OpenGov is operating in 100, I think a little over 190 other municipalities in Massachusetts. So it's a very well-known software. I don't think it's any secret that a lot of contractors are the ones that end up interfacing with the various departments to get all these types of work done. And one of the interesting things we learned about this product is that if you're a contractor, you have one login for all the different towns in Massachusetts. So if you're doing business in multiple towns, it's a really simplified process. You just have one login anywhere you go, which will really improve the experience for not only contractors that we work with, but also homeowners as well, because they'll be able to access the same things that their contractor sees. In addition, you can, there's a whole public facing side of this. So residents will be able to check on the status of their permit or look at other statuses of things going on around town. So there is definitely a public information component to this as well. One of the things that's a big change for us operationally is that we don't have any system right now. And we do everything on paper files, manual processes, in filing. I think you can witness the impact of this if you stop by the building department. I don't think there is any more floor space in the office to store any more files. So this is coming at a pretty good time. But we're solving one problem and creating another because all of the previous files exist on paper. And we'll have this inflection point when we convert it to an electronic system. And one of the things we're really happy about with OpenGov is that they have the capability to take scanned previous files and upload them to the system. So it's a long-term goal, but eventually we'll be able to get all of our old files into the same system as well, probably with a little less detail, but we thought that this proposal provided much differently from the other ones we reviewed for that capability. So not only will it help us in the now when we implement it, but we'll be able to circle back and really reduce the impacts of not operating with one of these systems for a long time. So we're excited about that. And then this application is not only for building and land use. It really has the capability to expand into other areas, which we thought was really interesting. And we can potentially, move our open burn permits from the fire department onto this application and really pull any license and permitting that we issue as a town into this software. So it can really truly become a one-stop shop for all licensing and permitting for the residents. So I think it's really going to improve our operations internally, but also really improve the customer experience from a resident standpoint. So I'm happy to explain anything in further detail or answer any questions that the board might have.
No, I mean, I think it's going to be great. It's really going to help the processes in so many ways. It's going to help citizens. It's going to help the departments. It's just a win-win for everyone. And I think you forgot to mention, just in case people are watching for the first time and learning about this, what even makes this sweeter is the fact that you were able to get a grant to offset a significant portion of the cost. So what would have cost the taxpayers $148,000, thanks to your applying for this grant, is only going to cost us $48,000. So, I also did not know until right now that it also has the capability of allowing us to move all our paper documents to electronic documents, which I know has been a goal of the towns for a long time. So great work, great outcome. Can't wait to have this implemented.
Yeah, and OpenGov, they've been a great partner leading up to this, answering questions. And in terms of implementation, we would be prepared to get started in mid to late May, and with the goal of having the system up and running shortly after the new year.
It's amazing.
Everything goes perfectly. So they've been a good partner so far in helping us achieve our goals of being a little aggressive to get this up and running.
Well,
great work, Chris. I know it's been a long time coming, but excellent outcome.
Absolutely. I thank you for your leadership on this. For our listeners, this was one of the Selectmen's top goals for this year. And Chris is delivering. And if I'm not mistaken, in the not too distant future, you're going to pick off another one of our top goals with municipal aggregation. On both accounts, heartfelt thank you. Technical question. We're gonna approve the contract now. You're gonna sign it. What if town meeting says no? Even though it's 40 whatever out of 100 and whatever.
Yep, so we're comfortable. This is so important that should town meeting say no, we would find beg, borrow, and steal to fund that remaining balance. Because with the grant and the multi-year project, this has been, well before Chris and I started to get this done. We just think it's that important.
Oh, I totally agree, but I just wanted to ask the question, what would happen? Because I'm all for signing this right today. Don't misunderstand me. I just want to make sure that there's not going to be a major kerfluffle if it's not approved by town meeting.
No, thank you for that. And I think it would be a matter of, we would have to look at our existing budget and what perhaps we could cut out in order to absorb this.
Yeah.
But we think that's a worthwhile endeavor.
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt that this is going to bring great relief to any Dover resident who is trying to build anything, trying to, any permit required. There's going to be side benefits too. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but if a contractor has a history of running afoul of various land use committees, this is all becoming documented now in one place. And we can respond accordingly. So there are so many internal and external customers that are all going to be made much happier. This is a no-brainer and a half. So, and then as Robin pointed, I wrote down with a grant, and then Robin stole my thunder. I mean, that's unbelievable. So thank you. I'm good. I mean, at this point, I just had that one technical question, and I agree with your sentiment. We need this. So
Yeah.
We can do a fundraiser.
yeah, exactly. So we'll put the server in the community center and use that. So, all right. I'm good, Robin, if you are.
Yes, I'm going to make a motion to approve the agreement between Zones LLC and the town of Dover for OpenGov permitting and licensing software.
Second.
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
I, Dave Haviland. See, when you deliver good news, Chris, it's easy.
Yeah, right.
Right. No, and that was a great intro and summary, Chris. Really,
Yeah,
really good.
It's really it's tough to capture everything that this does and how impactful it will be, but it's going to be really good. And I know everyone's very excited about it internally, and when the public gets their hands on it, they'll see the value as well.
Yeah, and my guess is you're gonna find that it does things that you didn't even know about. Once we
Yeah,
right.
implemented that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna let you guys enjoy what's left of a beautiful day.
So
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
second.
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
I, Dave Haviland.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Yeah.